You're saying that, too. When you look at structural damage to homes overall in Cottage Grove, the people here got off pretty easy. Craig Seward doesn't like to hear that kind of talk. He's one of the few with a home that really got hammered.
Here's one of the boys' bedroom then.
The roof here was actually lifted, and when it came back down, it didn't really land quite right. Now it sits kind of cockeyed.
What can you do, you know? Flop down and get depressed. I mean, you're bummed out enough, I guess, but everybody else around you has the same problems, so. Yeah, well, this is the mess. The garage wall used to be right over here.
One thing Craig has pretty much in common with most of his neighbors is damage to his garage. His is mostly gone.
Part of our roof is in the backyard. The other portion of there's a piece of roof in the street next street over.
While most houses here were spared direct damage, collateral damage here is profound. The loss of so many mature trees will change the character of this place for decades. Whole streets were blockaded by their debris. The presence of so many National Guard trucks and workers was a testament to the severity of the circumstances. Door-to-door, residents will begin what is at best a weeks-long process to correct about 10 violent minutes from the storm.
You always think it's never going to happen to you, and everybody says, well, you know, look at there, it happened to them. Well, now it's happened to us. Here we are getting to do it all for ourselves.
The damage here is everywhere. Again, it is largely relegated to plants, to trees specifically. They littered the streets. Cars could not get through this morning. The streets have been cleared away right now. In most of the homes, you can see they've put the trees like they have here along the side of the road. There are cranes that are coming along and picking up these trees, loading them onto trucks, and they'll get them out of here. The homes themselves have had minor damage, relatively speaking. There have been a couple of grave exceptions, but for the most part, it's just going to look a lot more barren around here.
One of those grave exceptions has to be the Seawards. Do they have a place to stay?
Right now, I think they're planning on staying where they are for at least the short term. They were trying to assess just how serious that roof damage was, but it looks pretty profound, actually.
On TV, it looks pretty serious. Thank you very much, Rick. Well, we want to turn to KARE 11's Asha Blake now. She is in St. Paul Park, where damage done by strong winds has residents there cleaning up. What are they cleaning up, Asha?
Oh, they're cleaning up a lot out here, Joan. We're on Summit Avenue, as you mentioned, in St. Paul Park. Now, the damage is not as widespread here as it was where Rick is, but it's definitely severe. You can see behind me, there's all sorts of debris around all of these houses, shingles torn off, some roofs covered with plastic because rain might be coming later. People around here are just trying to pick up the pieces. The Salvation Army truck is right here, the canteen. They're just ready to give food, and they've been here pretty much all day willing to do that. Now, everybody's trying to piece their life back together right now, and the relief workers that you see, they're here to help them do just that.
We have Captain Ken's baked beans, and we have hamburgers from McDonald's, and we have muffins, bananas, cookies. Anybody else want burgers and fries?
We have a nice little sunroof now. You can see right on up.
Shannon Schmidt and her fiancé have each other, and that's about it today. Last night's storm ripped the roof off their house, tore up insulation, and destroyed almost all of their belongings.
I have to laugh about it because, like Brian's grandpa's attorney said, you know, if you weren't laughing, you'd be crying. And I probably will be tomorrow.
Other St. Paul Park neighbors were slightly luckier. Mike Soley, his garage scattered in bits and pieces next door. His neighbors are helping him out.
To have something like this happen is just, it's devastating. You work for what you got, and then all of a sudden, within minutes, it's gone.
The trusses look like a little damage or two, so.
Red Cross and Salvation Army workers are now assessing the damage. They don't know how many people are homeless. So far, no one has applied for shelter, but they're ready for anything.
We're able to replace food and clothing if those were lost as a result of the disaster, or occupational supplies, medical supplies, those kinds of things. And if families have had damage to their home and don't have insurance to cover it, we can help with some minor building and repairs kinds of things too.
Food is being trucked into the Cottage Grove Fire Station on Grange Avenue. Relief workers expect to serve over 500 hamburgers and fries today. lines of National Guard started early.
It's always nice to see them. Been in a couple of these, and it's always good to see them there. Thank you, yeah. No beans for me.
Tired and hungry residents trickled in throughout the afternoon. This man was happy over a handful of burgers, some bananas, and some beans. Tomorrow, a service center will be set up on 80th Avenue to help repair the lives torn apart last night.
Now, the Red Cross says this operation could cost about $50,000. They're always in need of money. If you'd like to send a check, you can send it to Red Cross Disaster Relief, P.O. Box 11842, St. Paul. The zip code is 55111, and I'm sure that money will go to very good use. You can see how the people need some help out here. Back to you, Joan.
Asha, no personal injuries to report on out there.
Right, not so far. The people that we showed you in the beginning of the package, they had to hide in the basement, so they managed to survive, but otherwise no injuries.
Great. Thank you very much, Asha. From the air, we can get a clearer picture of the widespread damage, and Melissa Young is in Sky 11 right now. Mel, what do you see?
Well, Joan, we can see quite a bit. In fact, we're over the area, basically where Rick Coachella did his live shot a few minutes ago, and just to show you what you're going to be able to see, a number of trees, as he had talked about and Asha had talked about, trees down, homes damaged, fairly wide path of destruction you can see from the air. Hit everywhere from Invergrove Heights, West St. Paul, but of course the worst here in St. Paul Park and over Cottage Grove where we are right now. According to officials, hundreds of trees were down by the storm and several dozen homes sustained serious damage, such as the ones you see there. You would almost think this destruction was something of a tornado, but they say officials here are telling me no, that they've been told by the Weather Service that it was a wind shear or a downburst out of the thunderstorm that you hear sometimes in regard to aircraft accidents and things like that. They believe it was that sort of weather phenomenon that caused this type of damage. They've made quite a bit of progress today. If you flew over here earlier, most of these streets were impassable. Now most of the streets are open, but again, they are restricting access to this area, not allowing other people into the area for the night unless you live in the area or you're part of the emergency crews. So we'll be here all night, and we'll bring you more updates as they're warranted. Back to you.
Okay, thank you very much, Mel. It could be days before things are back to normal at the Ashland Oil Refinery in St. Paul Park. The storm knocked out power at the plant, causing a gasoline converter to overheat and catch on fire. Flames shot several hundred feet into the air. The storm also knocked out the refinery's telephones. Workers used cell phones to call for help. Firefighters from a dozen counties responded and brought that fire under control in 20 minutes.
It had a great potential to be very, very bad, yes. That's why we called all of our mutual aid departments out. Even though we sent a lot of them back, they're on the way in case we needed them.
No one was injured in that blaze. NSP crews are out in full force across the Twin Cities area. They are doing their best to put customers who lost power during the storm back online. At the height of the storm, some 48,000 customers were without electricity. As of 4:30 this afternoon, power still hadn't been restored to thousands of households. Officials for NSP say as crews finish their work, they are being asked to report to Cottage Grove to help in cleanup efforts there. Heavy rains from last night's wild weather is adding insult to injury, especially in areas just recovering from recent flooding. At times, the rain was coming down in sheets and visibility was greatly reduced. The rains triggered street flooding in many communities throughout the Twin Cities area. More than 2 inches of rain fell in Lake City. Flood-stricken Chanhassen received almost 2 inches of rain. The situation was similar in Young America and Eden Prairie. Both communities reported more than 1.5 inches of rain. And according to the National Weather Service, Minneapolis received just over 1 inch of rain. This afternoon, Davenport, Iowa is bracing for its worst flooding in nearly 30 years. The mighty Mississippi is expected to crest sometime tomorrow at 22.5 feet, and that is more than 7 feet above flood stage. It's moving 3 times its normal weight. Prisoners from area correctional facilities are sandbagging and building dikes to hold the floodwaters, but for the most part, they are too late. Many residents have already been forced from their homes. But with the flooding comes fascination. The rising river is attracting hundreds of people to the busiest bridge in Davenport.
This is something they'll remember maybe when they're our age. They can bring their kids to the next 25-year flood.
Oh, but it's better being here live. Live.
President Clinton is expected to visit Davenport on Sunday to inspect flooding damage. Wisconsin Governor Tommy Thompson says he is writing the president to request a meeting to discuss flood damage across the Midwest. He's also asking governors of Minnesota, Illinois, Iowa, and North Dakota to join him on that effort. Joining me on the effort today, Ellen Ferrara. It is amazing. The weather, the horrible weather, just seems to keep on coming.
And you know, we are still setting ourselves up for another stormy weather pattern both of the days for this holiday weekend, continuing right into Monday and Tuesday. So we're not out of the woods yet. Thankfully, for a short period of time, we will have arrested. Before we get into the weekend forecast, though, I'd like to tell you a little bit about what happened last night and explain with a graphic to show you just what straight line winds are and the damage that they can do. Now, generally, straight line winds or downburst winds are caused by a combination of things. First of all, the speed of the thunderstorm, which did accelerate through southern Washington County. It was going over 40 miles an hour at the time. That combined with strong winds that were heading down from the thunderstorm cell itself was the result of those trees that were downed in that area and that significant damage. Denmark Township in Washington County, winds were clocked at 107 miles an hour. Winds with straight line wind conditions can exceed 100 miles an hour to 150 miles an hour. That's why a lot of people do think the damage was done by a tornado, but the National Weather Service can actually check this out. They know that if the damage is all in one direction, all the trees have fallen in one direction, usually it's straight line winds rather than scattered in a circular pattern with a tornado.
And that's largely unpredictable, the winds like that, the downburst.
It really is, but you know, there were severe thunderstorm warnings in effect for the area last night, and coming up in my weather segment, we'll talk a little bit about what severe thunderstorm warnings mean. Oftentimes people hear tornado warnings, they know to go to the basement, but they don't take severe thunderstorm warnings, you know, as they should be.
Yeah, that's true. I'm guilty of that, too.
Okay.
Thanks. We'll talk to you later. A Hennepin County jury reaches a verdict in the murder trial of a Russian emigre, and President Clinton gives the nod to a controversial